Another dichotomy we can look at in relationships are transparency and compartmentalization. So for transparency, there can be an expectation, a fulfillment, and a disparity of that transparency. When we expect transparency, your perspective will be consistent regardless of the environment. If you see your teacher in an environment other than school, at the grocery store, you are going to expect them to still fulfill the same role, still have the same countenance, still have the same behaviors as a teacher. That would be an expectation of transparency. Now, fulfillment of the transparency would be if your teacher assumes that role. If your teacher asks you, how's the homework coming this week? Are you making sure to study? All right, be sure not to procrastinate. That would fulfill our perspective of the transparent relationship with that. Now, if there's a disparity when we expect transparency and it does not occur, like expecting it to take a step on stairs and there not being one there, that creates a very dissonant perspective for us that can confuse us for the roles, for the subject, as well as the audience, and a distrust of the consistency. So expecting your teacher to have the same countenance and behavior when you see them in an environment other than school, and they are exhibiting a different role, a different behavior with that, that may lead you to distrust them as a teacher back in the classroom next Monday. That can also start to break down the trust in them as a teacher in that role. If you know, I saw you had a girlfriend, you're not allowed to have a girlfriend, you're a teacher. Now, one of my favorite buzzwords in all of interpersonal communication will always be the perspective. So now, the perspective with transparency will allocate all of the subject's roles, no matter where you see them, to be one and the same. This is regardless of the environment, regardless of other people around them, regardless of the roles that you may be assuming. Again, as children, it's a little disconcerting to find out that our parents are people. You see photos of them when they are not in a parental role that you perceive. Teachers don't sleep and stay at the school. Actors aren't named after the characters that you first see them. This is all our perspective if we are taking a transparent perspective of a particular person. So now, an interesting musing would be that if you cannot perceive a difference in someone's role, in someone's countenance, in someone's behavior, does the transparency matter? If they do have a compartmentalized life, things you do not know about, behaviors that are unbecoming of whatever the role is you have attributed to them, if you never see it, does it still make a difference? A very topical example of this would be Queen Elizabeth II. May she rest in peace. Over decades, across many countries, across many different circumstances, we came to be able to expect a certain set of behaviors and a role that she would fulfill. For the large part, she did fulfill these, and it was a nearly unbreakable visage that she had, that she carried with her. You would always be able to expect the same regal, the same royal behavior of her. That does not mean that it wasn't there, but if we never saw it, if she was always practicing putting on that role, putting on that transparency, even going to bed at night and brushing her teeth because she knows she will be being watched, she will be having to practice that role, maybe she was literally just that person and thus 100% transparent. We would never be able to tell. The other side of this is compartmentalization, where all of these things are very different and very variegated, very striated, different roles depending on context. Same thing. We can have an expectation of compartmentalization, fulfillment, and a disparity. So let's go through those. An expectation of compartmentalization would be if someone cuts you off in traffic, it does not matter if they are your teacher. You are going to honk, you are going to be pissed, you are going to say all of the things that we do in a car with the windows rolled up when we think no one's watching. That is more dependent on the environment. The roles can be fluid depending on the context. So now when compartmentalization is fulfilled, that is where you can divorce the attributes, you can separate the person from the different roles that they are, and simply look at the environment. This allows for a lot of latitude behavior. Even if your teacher cuts you off in traffic and you get pissed at them, once you're in the classroom, both of you behave as teacher and student without any of the anger, any of the other associations that you would have in the outside environment, bringing those into the teacher-student roles. Now, when these are disparate, when there is disparity, is very similar to the same disparity that there is for transparency. There can be a confusion on the roles for the subject and audience and a distrust of the separation. If your teacher cuts you off in traffic and you honk at them and they don't call on you all class, they start not to look at you, your grades start going down even though you're still doing the same quality of work, that leads to a distrust that they are able to separate and divorce those roles, to have those contexts start conflating and collapsing into one frame. So the perceptions of compartmentalization, if you are taking that kind of perspective, that is where you are looking at more of the environment, even if you know a person. So regardless of any of the other roles that you might know them from, any of the other familiar behaviors, nomenclatures, anything like that, that you would come to expect them. Same thing if they, like I said, if they cut you off in traffic, if you run into a client that you know from work where you are serving them, you run into them off the clock, the last thing you would be expecting and you would want to discuss with them is work. So now, again, there is this either and neither concept. If someone compartmentalizes so well that you do not recognize them, that you do not have any familiarity between those roles, how much are they the same person? If you run into your teacher in a mosh pit covered in corpse makeup and you guys are elbowing each other, helping each other up, and go an entire show with that, you did not recognize them, did not recognize the roles, the behavior, the speech, the body language, anything like that, can that be the same person that you see in class on Monday? Does it matter? If I am Batman, does it matter what I do as Bruce Wayne? As Bruce Wayne, if I am doing good deeds, if I am well-behaved, mild-mannered, things like that, don't get into physical altercations, does it matter that the other roles I reprise are very opposite of that?